Hello everybody, my name is Sam and welcome back to the English Sponge B2 podcast. Today I'm once again joined by James. How are we doing today, James?
Fantastic, everything is A-OK. Thank you.
Yeah, today James and I are going to be discussing the TV shows that we grew up with living in England as children. So, to get us started, James, what was the TV show that you used to run home from school to watch?
Oh, that's a tough question. If I remember correctly, actually, this is not quite such a well-known TV show, but there was one called Raven. There was a TV show called Raven, which was based on like medieval games and stuff. And it was kids who had to compete in this game, and they had to complete challenges like, you know, archery and using a sword and things like that. I remember that I used to really love that program. Like you said, I used to sprint home to come and watch it because it was on at 4 p.m. every day. So what about you?
I have to say, Raven, fantastic TV show. I remember I always thought the kids who lost, that they really died. I remember that was the sort of premise of the show. The kids who lost, they sort of died. And I actually believed it back in the day. The show that I used to run home from school to watch, it wasn't a British show like Raven. I used to run home to watch iCarly. I remember when the first episodes of iCarly were just getting released. I watched the show and I loved it. I found it so funny, so entertaining. And we used to drive home from school. I used to go to my childminder's house directly after school, and I would wait there for an hour or two before my mum came and picked me up. Every time iCarly was on after school, I remember I would be waiting at my childminder's, staring through the window, like really anxious, hoping mum arrives in time so I can watch iCarly when I get back. So yeah, that would be the one for me.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one, but like we were discussing just before the podcast started, we are slightly different ages. There is about 7 or 8 years between us, so we probably have different childhood shows, although apparently you know what Raven is, so I guess it's not that different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, from my generation, and maybe even a little bit older than me, because I had an older sister, it was when sort of Disney Channel and Nickelodeon really started to take over. I imagine they were still around when you were young, but they weren't as dominant in British media. For people my age growing up, the primary thing that we would watch would be either the Disney Channel or Nickelodeon, something like that, an American TV show, whereas the English TV shows were pushed to the side a little bit by that point.
There's something interesting about that is that, yes, we did have American TV shows. Like I did used to watch things on Nickelodeon. I used to watch the show Recess, which was really well known in the UK as well. I remember sometimes as a kid being a little bit confused about some of the American words that were used in those shows. Because I was so young, I didn't really understand that like the English they were using was actually a bit different from my English, right? I didn't really understand what America was or where America was or whatever. I never really thought about it. And I remember in Recess, they would say the word like kindergarten. And they would play, I think it was the sport in that is kickball or something like that. And I remember thinking like, what is that? What is kindergarten? Like what is kickball? I remember having these thoughts really as a young child at like 7 years old and being confused, like, what are these words that I've never heard of? So,
I mean, even the name of the show, Recess, we never went out for recess at school. We went out for break or for lunch. So even just in the name of the show, it sort of shows the difference. I think there's something to be said sort of here with the Americanization of British English and how people of my generation, and even your generation as well, I imagine, our English is slightly more Americanized than that of our parents. Certain words we pronounce sound slightly more American, and the word choices that we make sometimes as well. Some people say the word truck instead of lorry, kindergarten instead of nursery or playgroup, little differences like that. And I think kids' TV, children's TV, has a really, really big impact on that shift to a more Americanized version of British English.
I do think that we have become more Americanized a little bit, and we do sound less typically British than our parents. Sometimes I hear my parents and definitely my grandparents use some words, which actually I don't know what they mean. So yeah, it definitely happens. We definitely say a few American things nowadays. Yeah, probably because we watched thousands of hours of American kids programs when we were little. So.
Yeah. Okay. So we've spoken a little bit about the TV shows we used to rush home and see. Can you think of any TV shows or events growing up in Britain that were a nationally shared experience, a really big cultural moment?
Nothing really comes to mind, actually, Sam. What about you?
Yeah, so maybe they're not exactly kids shows, but they're shows that were definitely for all of the family. The first couple of seasons of X Factor. X Factor was a singing competition in the UK that went huge. It went absolutely massive. And no matter what, every family would gather around the TV on a Friday or Saturday night, turn the channel over to ITV2, and they would watch X Factor. The same happened with Britain's Got Talent as well. And to a certain extent, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here as well.
Yeah, you may not remember this, but there was actually a show before X Factor, which was called Pop Idol. So Pop Idol actually... Yeah, so there we go. There's the age gap coming into play. No, Pop Idol came first, and then X Factor was after that. But these kind of shows were never really my cup of tea, honestly. Yeah, I know that everybody watched it, but apparently I am not part of everybody because I didn't watch it. So.
What about some of the charity shows we used to have that would raise money, such as Children in Need? Can you explain to everybody a little bit about those?
Yeah, so the ones that come to mind are Children in Need and also Red Nose Day as well. So Children in Need, yeah, we have these TV shows that come on, and the idea is to sort of hype up the show and get as many people as possible to donate to charity. Usually the money for the charity would be sent to somewhere in Africa, to a cause in Africa most of the time. Children in Need was a very popular one. The one that I think I remember much better is Red Nose Day. And I think they did have a show on TV as well. I could be wrong about this, but I think there was a TV show of Red Nose Day as well. At school, everybody had to wear a red nose on their nose, and we raised lots of money for charity. So yeah, I don't know if these shows are still big, Sam. I'm not sure I've really heard that much about these kind of charity shows.
I know Red Nose Day raised a decent amount of money recently. What I remember about Red Nose Day is you'd wear this big red nose on top of your real nose all day. And some of them had like different designs. There were some kids in my school who used to eat them. There were those weird sort of like soft sort of shape feeling, kind of like a stress ball. And when I was young, some kids used to like bite into them and start chewing them. So it always rubbed me the wrong way, I'll say, when it came to Red Nose Day. They hurt quite a lot as well. When you had them on your nose, by the end of the day, your nose would be a bit sore.
That's true. They started to hurt. They made those noses a bit too tight. And so you had this thing pinching your nose the whole day. Yeah, it was painful, you know. Yeah, and I don't think eating them is a particularly good idea.
No, it definitely wasn't. Something else I think perhaps we haven't mentioned are some old British comedy shows. I'm talking about Little Britain, Come Fly With Me, those sorts of TV shows. What do you think about those, James?
I mean, I'm a huge fan of classic British comedy. I do think that the sense of humour in British culture definitely is a little bit unique. And when you're talking about shows not really holding up anymore, when I think of Little Britain now, I mean, the kind of jokes that were told on Little Britain would be completely unacceptable today. Like, there's no way that that show would be on TV today, because there are so many incredibly, well, what people would call offensive jokes in that show. So that is definitely a show that if you watch it today, you're kind of there almost hiding behind the sofa. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe like people said that. But definitely British comedies, the IT Crowd comes to mind. I would classify that as a classic British comedy personally. Fawlty Towers, Blackadder, and yeah, those kind of shows with the characters which are really sarcastic, really dry humour is really sarcastic. I'm a big fan of these classic British comedies. What about you? Do you have a favourite British comedy, would you say?
Yeah, I'd say this is definitely not a kids show. Okay, I'll let that one out there for the audience. So if you're watching, trying to help your kids learn English, do not use this TV show, please. The Inbetweeners. Now, I don't know if James was still in school whilst the Inbetweeners was popular, but the Inbetweeners was at its peak just as I was entering secondary school. So when I was in year 7, the Inbetweeners was everywhere. It was the only thing people spoke about for a very long time. The Inbetweeners is a British comedy show about 4 17 to 18-year-old guys finishing their time at school. It is by far the most realistic interpretation of what it's like to be a teenager in Britain. All of the characters remind you exactly of people you know. The sort of interplay between them, the situations they get in, it's all really, really funny. And for someone who has lived in Britain, it really hits home for you. The level of cultural knowledge, sorry, James, about the Inbetweeners is so high that people of my age, we can have conversations with each other just by quoting lines from the show. I can have a full conversation with 2 or 3 people just quoting lines from the Inbetweeners, and we will all be laughing we'll be laughing so much. It's a very culturally important show for people in my age group.
Yeah, the Inbetweeners was big just as I was leaving secondary school, actually. So you were starting secondary school, and it was just as I was leaving. And yes, it is incredibly accurate. In fact, at that time period, there were 2 big teenage shows around. One of them was called Skins, and the other one was called The Inbetweeners. Skins was this really dramatic teenage show filled with drama. It was a good show, but it definitely was not realistic to like a normal teenager's life in the UK. On the other hand, The Inbetweeners really gets British culture with pinpoint accuracy. The life of a British teenager is very well portrayed in that show, The Inbetweeners. There are also a couple of Inbetweeners movies, and one of them they go to, they go to a Greek island. They go on a lad's holiday, right? Which
the first one, yeah.
The first one. And like I said in the previous podcast, I went on a holiday like that. And you know what? It was very accurate to, almost very similar to the experience that me and my friends have when we went on a so-called lad's holiday. So, yeah, The Inbetweeners, you're right. There are all kinds of quotes from that show. If you want to find out about what it's like to be a British teenager, then go and watch The Inbetweeners.
Watch The Inbetweeners, yeah.
Because it's exactly right.
If I'm not mistaken, James, you've prepared a list of different TV shows that you watched growing up, correct?
Yes, I've got a small list here. These are kids. These are more kids shows that I have. The first one on my list here is the Teletubbies. Now,
yeah, I watched that one. The Teletubbies was weird.
Yeah, it's really funny to go and watch these shows again. Because if you watch them now, they seem like like who the hell wrote this? Like who came up with the idea of having these 4 like space alien tubby fat creatures, and then there's a sunrise that comes up, and for some reason there's a baby in the sun.
The sun is a baby, and you forgot the part that the Teletubbies have TVs in their stomach. They will have TV screens.
The only conclusion I can think of is that the writers of that show were completely high when they wrote the show. I don't know how else you can come up with these kind of ideas. They must have been smoking something. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so we both watched the Teletubbies. Anything else?
Yes, the classic show that comes to mind is the show called Brum. So Brum is a really, really old show. I don't know, maybe the 90s. I'm not really sure when it was brought out. It was basically a kid's show about a little yellow car. And the little yellow car got up to loads of mischief and sort of misbehavior and things like that. I can't remember much else about the show, but it was definitely one that I watched when I was a kid. And Sam, you've seen that one as well,
yes.
I believe.
Fantastic television. I used to have an old DVD of Brum. I think it's like top 6 episodes or something like that. Here's the thing that people may not know around the world. British TV is weird to me because our seasons have really few episodes. Most seasons of a British TV show only have 6 episodes. So when we talk about these shows from our past, we're talking about shows that we used to watch over and over and over again. I watched those same 6 episodes of Brum probably over 300 times growing up. That's just how it was. It was a great show, though. I do remember.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because in a lot of TV shows, the creators of the show try to milk it for all it has. Yes. If it's a successful show, they will make season after season, episode after episode, and try to milk the show for as much money as they can. That's usually what people do. But I think those British shows did not really have that approach. I think they wanted to make every single episode really good, to make every single episode very high quality, and then when they didn't have any ideas left for the show, they stopped making any more episodes. And I think, that's why you get this high quality TV. Fawlty Towers, I think, had just 2 seasons and 6 episodes for each show, and that was it. They never did it again. They never made it.
That's a new one for me. I've never heard of Fawlty Towers.
Oh, you have to watch Fawlty Towers. It has the actor John Cleese in it. I think it was literally made in like the 70s or something like that, because it looks really old when you watch it. But it's like they did 2 seasons and then that's it forever. They never made a movie. They never did a spin-off show or anything, because the creators were like, well, we've done everything we want to do with this show and we're not going to ruin it now by trying to make more money from it and so on. So anyway, yeah, go and watch Fawlty Towers. It's a good one. Right, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed hearing about some classic British TV shows. I would recommend, if your listening of English does reach a good level, that watching some of these classic TV shows would be a good way to actually get some more comprehensible input. But you would need at least a B2 upper intermediate level really to understand them. But assuming that you're understanding this podcast, maybe you can go and watch some of these shows, because I tell you what, they are really good, and the comedies in particular are seriously funny. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next podcast. Bye-bye.